Joe Biden totally effed us. That, a quote from a Kamala Harris official in a new book that paints a damning picture of how far the White House went to hide his decline. Among the revelations from Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson's book, Biden's team hid him from his staff and even members of his cabinet. They considered that he may need a wheelchair in the future and contradicted warnings from his doctor. And Biden didn't recognize George Clooney, one of his longtime supporters, and of course, one of the most famous movie stars and faces on the planet. But as the scandal branches grow, what about the people who have political runways, the Pete Buttigiegs of the world, hitting a Midwest tour, Kamala Harris thinking about a run for California governor? Will and should their futures be impacted by this scandal? It kind of seems like the answer has to be yes, right?
Well, wait a minute.
Especially for someone like Kamala Harris who's in the White House.
Every Democrat's rushing to say, oh my gosh, Joe Biden wasn't fit to run for re-election, but they let him stay in running the country for another 5 months.
Big facts. They're all changing their tune now, but they was the ones covering for him all that time when they knew he was declining. Guys, if you had eyes, you could see that Joe Biden, he wasn't up to par. You can see that he didn't know his motherfucking left from his right. Seriously. And they covered for him. Chuck Schumer as one of them. Kamala Harris, she did it too. They was all covering for him, saying that he was just fine. I talked to him for an hour and he was the best that he ever was, and all that old bullshit. But anyway, let's get to it.
It's complete hypocrisy to say, yes, we think he wasn't fit, but it was okay that policy continued to be made, and we didn't ask him to step down.
It's tragic for the Democratic Party to have let him go on so long when clearly people around him knew that there was a serious problem. The people closest to him had been...
Guys, I don't understand why they have him on there giving his takes, because he's such a cornball. You know, he's one of these well-spoken idiots. You know, just because, you see, in our country, it's perceived that if being that you're well-spoken, that means you're smart. Trust me, that does not mean you're smart. He speaks well, but he's an idiot. And he's such a cornball. Not only that, he's a simp. He defers to women. He's very feminine. He's very emotional. He says a lot of unsmart things. So I don't understand why they have him giving his takes. But anyway.
Close to him for years, most of them like 20 years. So they were super loyal to him, more than normal analysts, activists who come and go. I don't know that I retain, as a Democrat, if I retain being a Democrat, if I'm mad at Pete Buttigieg because he didn't wait. Am I mad at Kamala? I would not think it would be her responsibility to say, you're not. Now, might she say something privately? Yeah, but I would not expect her to publicly.
That's what the 25th Amendment's all about,
though. So much, but because you're left-leaning. I'm talking about the average American. When they ask the question, what did you know and when did you know it?
Right.
Yeah. Right? And I think one of the things that is in the excerpts from this book is this idea that it wasn't just that Kamala Harris only had 100 plus days to run, but that the idea that Americans felt like they were being deceived by the Party, it tainted her in that last election already.
She did the deceiving.
I think that this is.
She damn sure did. She did the deceiving. She was one of the people who was right here caping for Joe Biden while she was campaigning. Seriously, while she was campaigning, talking about how strong Joe Biden was and he's still sharp and he still has it and all this bullshit. Guys, if you say all these things about Joe Biden, then that means you're taking leverage from yourself. And that's what that dumb bitch didn't realize. And I'm talking about Kamala Harris.
The question. Well, I mean, how does she escape that?
This was something where I think the public was ahead of where the politicians and even to some degree the media was. 2 years before the disastrous debate, we were sitting there together, Abby. There were polls that were showing 67% of Americans thought Joe Biden was too old to have another term. And Democratic politicians did not listen to those warnings. And I interviewed Joe Biden a week and a half ago on The View. I left thinking he definitely could not have done another 4 years. I'm grateful for his service. He had a good command of the facts of things he was proud of to talk about that he did, but there was just no way that Joe Biden could do 4 more years. And I do think the future leaders of the party have to say something better than it's time to look forward. They need to address that the public was saying we need someone else, and they waited until the last minute and frankly did not have a particularly
Can I ask
democratic
one quick
process.
question, Alyssa, about that interview? I mean, what did you make of the fact that Jill Biden was there with him?
I thought it was very unhelpful. I asked the specific question about allegations of his cognitive decline, and he began to answer it, and then she jumped in for him. And I get it, as a spouse, you want to help your partner, but that was his moment to knock out of the park any fear that he has cognitive decline, and it played into basically the worst assumptions, that he can't finish sentences and she had to help him out.
Big facts. Because Joe Biden, he was slurring his words. He was very incoherent. He was stuttering. And when she asked him that question, Joe Biden started stuttering and going blank. And Jill Biden had to step in for him and finish his sentence, which makes him look very pathetic and very incapable of giving his own thoughts. I don't understand why they thought it was good for him to go on The View. That just actually made him look worse, because the premise was for him to knock out the park these allegations of him losing his nut or losing his medulla. But if you have 2 eyes, you can see that he wasn't capable of running 4 more years. I mean, seriously. I mean, who the fuck are we kidding? Joe Biden was not capable of running 4 more years. You could see it. And the Democrats, they covered for him for as long as they could. Now they're trying to make money off of him, writing books and coming out and acting like they didn't have anything to do with it when these same ones were covering for them and acting like they didn't notice. This is pretty much damn near like elderly abuse. But anyway, y'all, let me know what you think in the comments, man. This your boy Maslow Capone. Do the Better You channel. Like and subscribe, man. I love y'all. Appreciate y'all. I'm out.